You stopped texting her. You stopped calling. You vanished, thinking your silence would echo so loudly in her mind that she'd come running back. You think your silence is power, that by vanishing from her world, she'll feel the empty space you've left like a missing heartbeat. But here's the truth. Silence without strength is just a shadow, and shadows don't change the shape of a man. They only hide it. Most men believe disappearing will make her miss them. They imagine her scrolling through old messages, replaying memories, feeling the weight of what's gone. But if your heart is still chained to her, if your mind still circles her every night, then you haven't disappeared. You've only stepped back far enough to keep watching. That's not mystery, that's pursuit in disguise. And she can feel it, in the way your energy still bends toward her, in the way you hope for her attention without saying a word. Women are wired to read the truth beneath a man's actions, and she knows when your center is anchored and when it's leaning toward her for balance. So the question isn't, will she notice my silence? The question is, has my silence transformed me? Because only one of those creates power. If you're ready to understand the difference and to wield silence the way a Stoic would, start this journey now. Like this video and subscribe to Stoic Station. Drop a 1 in the comments if you've ever used silence hoping it would make her miss you, and a 2 if you're ready to turn that silence into real strength she can't ignore. And stay with me, because what I'm about to share will change how you see every quiet moment from this day forward. Let's begin. Part 1. When silence is just another chase. You think your silence is strength, but she can feel the storm you're hiding in your chest. Most men convince themselves that pulling away will spark longing, that if they simply disappear from her phone, from her notifications, she'll start to ache for them. But silence without transformation isn't power, it's camouflage. And if your emotions are still tied to her, if your mind still circles her every day, your absence isn't mystery, it's just pursuit in disguise. You've stopped texting, you've stopped calling, but late at night you still find yourself checking her social media, scrolling through her photos, replaying old words in your head as if they were carved in stone. You look for signs, any sign that she's thinking about you. You tell yourself you're being patient, that you're letting her feel the void. But deep down, you know the truth. You're still standing in the same emotional place, only quieter. And here's the reality you may not want to face. This isn't detachment. This is silent chasing. A woman doesn't have to see you to know where you are emotionally. Generations of survival have trained her to read the subtle currents beneath a man's actions. It's in her DNA to sense whether a man's center is solid or if it's leaning toward her for stability. She can feel it in the way you hold your posture when you see her. She can sense it in the words you choose when you do speak. Even in your silence, she can detect whether you've truly moved on or whether you're simply hiding your longing behind a wall of unspoken words. That unspoken pull is loud to her. It tells her you haven't evolved, that you're still orbiting her like a planet that can't escape its star. And in her mind, that doesn't make you mysterious. It makes you predictable. You're not the man she wonders about. You're the man she can still read from across the room. And predictability is the enemy of attraction. The truth is, if your silence is a strategy designed to make her miss you, you're still living in her frame. Your energy is still being spent on her, even if you're not speaking. That's why she doesn't feel your absence, because your attention never truly left. Stoicism teaches the dichotomy of control. You can control your actions, but you cannot control her reactions. Once you grasp this, the way you use silence changes. Real silence isn't about muting your voice or withholding your presence. It's about removing her from the center of your inner world. It's about reclaiming all the energy you've been leaking toward her and redirecting it into the architecture of your own life. Fill that space with the kind of pursuits that sharpen you into a man who cannot be ignored, not because you're trying to get her attention, but because you're building a life so rich, so full, so grounded that attention naturally follows. Build your health until you move like a man who owns his body. Master your craft until your work speaks for you louder than any message ever could. Secure your financial base so that you are unshakable no matter who stays or who goes. When you do this, something powerful shifts, not in her, but in you. You stop asking, when will she notice? And start realizing that her noticing isn't the point. You stop timing your progress based on her reactions and start measuring it against your own standards. You begin to see that the purpose of silence isn't to lure someone back, it's to strip away everything that keeps you from standing on your own mountain. And here's the paradox. It's only when you stop making her the audience for your evolution that your evolution becomes magnetic. Because growth for the sake of validation is fragile. It crumbles under pressure. But growth for the sake of becoming the man you were meant to be, that's untouchable. That's the kind of presence a woman feels without understanding why. The kind that lingers in her mind, not because you're waiting for her, but because you no longer are. If she saw you today, would she see a man standing on his own mountain, or still waiting at the bottom for her to guide him up? That's the question that should guide your silence. And if the answer isn't the one you want, you don't need to wait for her to change. You need to change the man she'd see. Because the silence that moves her isn't the one that hides longing. It's the one that radiates from a man who no longer needs her to feel whole. And once you become that man, your silence will speak for you in a language she can't ignore. Now here's where it gets interesting. When you truly step into that space, your silence stops being a tactic and starts being a truth. You won't have to remind yourself not to text. You won't have to resist checking her updates. Those impulses will dissolve because your focus will no longer be there. And in their place will be a kind of peace you didn't think was possible after losing her. That peace is what makes the difference between a man who's forgotten and a man who's felt long after he's gone. And if you think this is just about relationships, you're missing the bigger picture. This is about living from a place of sovereignty, about deciding that no one, not her, not anyone, gets to be the center of your identity. This is about making your silence a byproduct of your strength, not the disguise for your weakness. Because when you understand that, you stop waiting for her to miss you, and you start building a life she could never imagine walking away from. So the question becomes, what will you do with the space her absence has left? Will you waste it standing still, hoping she turns around? Or will you use it to forge a man so complete, so unshakable, that her opinion of you no longer matters? Because the day you stop chasing her, even in silence, is the day your silence stops chasing her too. And that's when it becomes the Stoic power move she can't ignore. Part 2. The trap of no contact without change. You've cut the cord. No calls, no texts, no late night just checking in messages. You tell yourself you're following the rules of no contact, that this is how she'll feel your absence, how she'll start to miss you. But here's the truth most men avoid. If nothing inside you changes, nothing outside you will either. Time alone doesn't create attraction. It only magnifies what's already there. You might think you're playing the long game, waiting for her curiosity to grow. But if you spend every day in the same routines, nursing the same thoughts, living in the same habits that drove her away, you're not building suspense. You're preserving the same version of yourself she already decided to leave. And the longer you stay that man, the more her decision feels justified. The hard truth: you've replaced chasing her with waiting for her, and waiting is still a form of dependence. It's an emotional leash you've tied around your own neck. You may be sitting in silence, but you're still facing her door, hoping it will open. And women can sense this. They feel when a man's focus is still orbiting them, even if his phone is silent. That's why your absence isn't shaking her world, because in reality, you never left it. This is the trap of no contact without change. It's a pause button, not a reset. You're banking on time to do the work that only transformation can do. But attraction doesn't run on time, it runs on perception, and perception shifts when you shift. If you want your silence to carry weight, you have to turn it into a rebuilding phase, not a holding pattern. That means every week, something in your life has to move forward. Not to prove a point to her, but to prove something to yourself. In Stoicism, we call this self-governance, the practice of directing your energy toward what is within your control and refusing to bleed it into what is not. Here's where it all begins, with your body. Set yourself a 90-day physical target, strength, endurance, posture. Pick one and measure it weekly. You want to move differently, stand differently, and radiate a presence that's harder to ignore. Then sharpen the mind. Choose one skill that will raise your value in the marketplace within 6 months. Negotiation, coding, sales, public speaking, skills are currency, and mastery pays you back for life. Finally, protect your environment. Cut away 3 triggers that keep you chained to the past, whether it's a playlist, a place, or people who keep her name alive in your mind. When you remove what drags you backward, your body, mind, and surroundings work together to pull you forward, and the future finally has room to breathe. Do this, and your no contact shifts from passive to active. You're no longer sitting in the dark waiting for her to light a match. You're building your own fire, and the glow from that fire will reach farther than you think. Because when she hears your name in passing, when she stumbles across a photo of you, when someone mentions the new direction your life has taken, she won't just see the man she left, she'll see the man she underestimated. And that realization will sting far more than your silence ever could. But here's the part most men don't realize. This isn't about making her regret it. It's about removing the part of you that would need her to. When you do that, you step out of her frame and back into your own. You stop living in the shadow of what you lost and start standing in the light of what you're building. So ask yourself this. If your phone never lit up with her name again, would you still be proud of the man you became in her absence? If the answer is no, then your silence isn't a power move. It's a waiting room, and the longer you sit there, the more life you waste. No contact is not the weapon. You are, but only if you sharpen yourself while you're holding it. Part 3. Turn absence into authority. She expects your absence to be temporary. She assumes you're simply licking your wounds, pacing in the shadows, waiting for the moment you'll reappear with the same words you've always used. That's why, in the early days, your silence doesn't rattle her, it reassures her. She thinks she knows you, she thinks she can predict you, and this is where most men waste the opportunity. They use absence like a fishing line, pulling back only to cast forward again. But absence, if you truly understand it, isn't a lure. It's a forge. It's the quiet space where you heat, hammer, and reshape yourself into a man whose life no longer revolves around being chosen. When your absence is paired with progress, it becomes authority. Not the kind of authority you announce, but the kind you emanate. It's the unspoken message in the way you walk, in the way your schedule is too full to leave gaps for her, in the way you smile at the world without seeking its approval. That's when she stops thinking, "He's gone for now," and starts wondering, "Did I misjudge him?" But authority can't be faked. You can't sprinkle in a few gym selfies, flash some cash, and call it growth. That's costume work, and people can always tell the difference between armor and decoration. Authority comes from the kind of upgrades you can't buy, the kind that can't be captured in a single post. Consistency, discipline, emotional self-governance. The Stoics knew this. Real influence doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from controlling yourself. That's why your absence has to be more than physical. It has to be a withdrawal of emotional availability. You stop being the man she can reach when she's bored, lonely, or in need of a boost. You stop being the easy harbor. You become the man whose waters must be earned. So here's how you turn absence into authority. First, set your non-negotiables. Decide the price of your time, your energy, and your attention, and never sell them at a discount. A man who knows his worth stops offering himself to those who treat him as optional. Then move without announcement. Let your growth be like the tide, rising without noise, reshaping the shoreline without asking for permission. Finally, live in forward motion. Fill your life so fully with purpose, creation, and challenge that the very thought of checking in on her feels like walking backward into a life you've already outgrown. When you do this, something shifts in the balance of power. She can't place you in the old category anymore because the man you were isn't here to fit into it. You're not waiting for her. You're not reacting to her. You're not even thinking about her in the same way. And that unpredictability is what unsettles her more than any pointed silence could. Here's the paradox. The more you build in private, the more your presence is felt in public. Not because you're broadcasting it, but because people talk, mutual friends notice, opportunities align, and suddenly your name carries a different weight. Not, he's still around, but he's doing something. And whether she admits it or not, that's when curiosity creeps in. That's when she wonders if she walked away at the exact moment you were about to rise. And that question will echo longer than any unanswered message. Because authority isn't telling her you've changed. It's living in such a way that she can't help but see it. And by the time she does, you'll realize that the recognition you were chasing no longer matters. Now ask yourself this. If she called tomorrow, would you answer from a place of needing her validation or from the seat of a man who knows his value whether she's on the line or not? Because that answer determines whether your absence is just distance or a power she can't ignore. Part 4. Detachment that commands respect. Most men hear the word detachment and picture coldness, emotional shutdown, a poker face, a heart sealed behind stone walls. But real detachment is nothing like that. Detachment isn't the absence of feeling, it's the mastery of it. It's standing in the middle of the storm without letting the wind decide your direction. It's knowing exactly where your energy goes and refusing to spend it on what drains you. If your silence is just a pause between emotional outbursts, it's not detachment, it's repression. And repression always leaks. It shows in your body language, in the way your attention flickers back to her, in the way you can't stop replaying scenarios in your head. She can feel that. Respect evaporates when a man's energy is still tethered to her approval, even if his words are gone. The truth is, a woman respects a man who governs himself, who can care without clinging, who can listen without being swayed, who can be present without being possessed. That's what the Stoics meant by sovereignty, the state of being untouchable, not because you're unreachable, but because your sense of self is rooted deeper than any person can dig. But you can't stumble into that state. You have to build it, brick by brick. Morning mastery. Your first hour belongs to you. No phone, no news, no distractions. Train your mind before the world can touch it. Physical discipline. Lift, run, stretch, whatever it takes to harden not just your muscles, but your will. A disciplined body reinforces a disciplined mind. Cut the ghosts. Delete the numbers you scroll to at midnight. Unfollow the feeds that trigger old feelings. Stop feeding the ghost of a relationship that no longer exists. Every second you give it is fuel stolen from your future. Masculine energy is directional. It's meant to move, to build, to conquer. When you let your focus orbit someone who's no longer building with you, you turn that energy inward and it eats you alive. Detachment is the act of taking that same energy and sending it forward into something that multiplies instead of diminishes. And here's the paradox. The more detached you become, the more presence you carry. People feel it in the way you speak without urgency, in the way you don't scramble to fill silence, in the way your eyes are fixed on horizons beyond their reach. You become the man who doesn't flinch, not because you're indifferent, but because your center is anchored. When she looks at you now, she's not seeing the man who needs her to feel valuable. She's seeing the man who's valuable, whether she's there or not. And that's the kind of man who commands respect. Ask yourself, if she returned tomorrow, would you still live by the same disciplines you've built in her absence? Because if the answer is no, your detachment is an act. But if the answer is yes, if the routines, boundaries and focus you've built are non-negotiable, then you've crossed the line from pretending to being. That's when respect is no longer something you hope for, it's something you naturally command. And once you reach that point, you'll understand why true detachment isn't the act of letting go of her, it's the act of holding on to yourself. Part 5. Purpose. The magnet stronger than her memory. Chasing a woman who doesn't want you is like running on a treadmill. You sweat, you burn energy, but you stay in the same place. Purpose, on the other hand, is the open road. Every step takes you farther from the man you were and closer to the man you were meant to become. When your life revolves around her, you're in her gravity. Every thought, every plan, every mood depends on her orbit. But the moment you align your life around a mission bigger than both of you, the pull shifts. You become your own center of gravity, and people, women included, are naturally drawn to it. That's not magic. That's the psychology of value. Human beings are wired to respect what moves with intention. Right now, you might be filling your days with distraction, work that doesn't inspire you, habits that keep you numb, conversations that go nowhere. And in those empty spaces, her memory floods in. This is where most men make the fatal error. They try to wait out the feelings instead of replacing them with purpose. Waiting keeps you tied to the past. Purpose drags you into the future. Ask yourself, if you weren't thinking about her, what would you be building? What would your days look like if every hour was accounted for by something that mattered? That's your first blueprint for breaking her hold on you. Here's where you begin, not by chasing vague dreams, but by carving a mission into stone. Define it with precision. What skill will you master until it becomes second nature? What value will you create that outlives you? What will your life stand for when your name is only a memory? Then align your days to that mission. Let every task, every commitment, either serve your purpose or be removed without hesitation. And guard your energy as if it were gold. Stop spending hours on people, habits and distractions that pull you off course. Time is the only currency you can never earn back. Spend it where it compounds into the man you're meant to become. As you live this way, something shifts inside you. The hours you used to spend in emotional orbit are now invested in something that compounds. Your confidence grows, not because she notices, but because you notice. Your days are fuller, your focus sharper, your sense of worth independent of anyone's opinion. And here's the paradox. When you chase purpose, people start chasing you. Not because you're trying to attract them, but because purpose is magnetic. It signals direction, discipline and self-respect, the exact qualities that make a man hard to forget. By the time her memory catches up to you, you'll be so far down your own road that you'll have a choice. Not between her and loneliness, but between her and the life you've built. And that choice will be yours, not hers. So the question isn't whether she'll ever think about you again. The question is, when she does, will you be the same man she left, or the man whose life is too full to look back? Because when you live with purpose, her memory is no longer the magnet, you are. Part 6. The man. She can't recognize, but you can. The goal isn't for her to miss you. It's for you to meet the man you were meant to be. If she comes back and sees the same man she left, nothing changes. If she comes back and finds a man she doesn't even recognize, you've already won, because that transformation wasn't for her. It was for you. Her leaving wasn't the end. It was the ignition, a spark that burned away your comfort zone and forced you to rebuild from the ground up. Most men spend that fire trying to signal her, hoping she'll see the smoke and come running back. But the real power is in letting that fire forge you into something unshakable. The man she can't recognize is not just physically stronger or financially better off. He's anchored in self-respect, guided by purpose, and disciplined enough to keep building whether anyone's watching or not. He's the man whose days are structured around growth, not reaction. The man who's impossible to pull off course because he decides where he's going before he takes a single step. But here's the truth. Becoming that man requires more than inspiration. It requires a plan. In Stoicism, we talk about living intentionally, not accidentally. That means building systems, not relying on willpower alone. And here's a framework to start. In weeks 1 and 2, cut the dead weight. Delete the numbers your fingers keep searching for. Remove the reminders that keep you anchored to a past that no longer deserves your loyalty. Strip your environment down until nothing pulls you backward. In week 3, create a visible win. Choose one arena, your body, your skill set, or your finances, and push it far enough that even you can't deny the man you're becoming. In week 4, protect it with routine. Build morning rituals, training blocks, and focus hours so solid that sliding back into the old you becomes nearly impossible. By the time you've completed just 1 month of this, you'll see the first glimpse of the man she won't recognize. And here's the beautiful part. You will recognize him, because he's the man you've been trying to meet your whole life. The day may come when she sees you again, when her mind tries to reconcile the man in front of her with the man she once knew. She may wonder how she ever thought you needed her approval. She may even regret walking away. But by then, her reaction will be irrelevant, because you'll be living in a frame where her opinion is just one of many voices in a crowd, and not the one guiding your direction. And this is the Stoic truth. The point of transformation is not to impress the people who left, but to honor the man who stayed, the man who didn't quit on himself when it would have been easier to collapse. So if you've been waiting for a sign to stop watching her life and start building your own, this is it. No more hoping she sees you. No more waiting for her to validate your growth. Start the work. Keep the work. And one day, whether she sees you in person or hears about you through someone else, she'll realize the man she left is gone. But you won't be. You'll be here, standing taller, moving faster, and living freer than you ever have. And in that moment, you'll understand. She was never the destination. She was just the spark that lit the road to the man you were meant to become. Hold the line, gentlemen. The work you do now isn't for her. It's for the man staring back at you in the mirror. If this message grounded you, if it hit something deep, then like this video and subscribe to Stoic Station. Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And don't stop here. The next step in your journey is on the screen right now. Click it. Keep moving toward the man you were meant to become. Your transformation is waiting, but remember, it won't wait forever.